Let us talk about some other terms that you need to be familiar with. We'll be using the set of observations right here, 5, 8, 10, 18 all the way up to 50. There are a total of 11 observations that I've marked below just to show the order of the observations that you have. Range is pretty straightforward. It is the highest minus lowest. So that's gonna be 50 minus 5. So it's gonna be 45. Straightforward. Now quartiles. Before we do that, let's go back to what the median was. Since there are 11 observations, an odd number of observations, we know that the sixth observation, 24, is the median, because there are as many observations below the median as there are above. Both have the median basically divides it into values below the median, which is a set of 5 observations, values above the median, which is also another set of 5 observations. That is the median. Now let's take it a step further from here. So the median, there was only one median that divided the set into two sets, subsets, not counting the median itself. It wasn't part of either of these sets. Now imagine that you have an observation. No, not imagine, you have that observation here which divides the lower subset into two subsets which have equal number of elements, and you have another observation that divides the higher subset again into equal number of elements in the two subsets thus created. Now these are the quartiles. There are actually 3 quartiles, Q1, Q2 and Q3, which divide the set of observations in such a way that there are the same number of observations below Q1 as well as above Q1 but below the median. Q2 itself is the median. Same thing. As many between Q1 and Q2 as there are between Q2 and Q3, and as many between Q2 and Q3 as there are above Q3. So that's basically what the quartiles are. So it divides into 4 regions. That's why it's called quartiles. And there are 3 values that actually do the division into 4 divisions. Similarly, you can do quintiles, deciles, percentiles. So we are familiar with percentile. So if you are talking in terms of percentile, the median is the 50th percentile. We are not going into detail on that right now, but that's the idea. You can divide into any number of subsets of observations. Here we are talking about the divisions that make it into 4 subsets, each with the same number of observations. Now from the point of view of formulae, Q1 is basically n plus 1 by 4th observation. Q2 would be twice that, 2 into n plus 1 by 4th observation. Q3 would be 3 into n plus 1 by 4th observation. So basically here n is 11, so 12 by 4 third observation is Q1. Twice of n plus 1 by 4 will be 6th observation. Thrice of n plus 1 by 4 will be 3 into 11 plus 1 by 4 will be 9, 9th observation. That's basically how it works. So Q1 here would be equal to 10 in this example. Q2 is nothing but the median, and it is equal to 24, and Q3 is equal to 40. Those are your quartiles. The interquartile range called IQR is basically just the difference between Q3 and Q1, and that would be 40 minus 10 is equal to 30. The quartile deviation is half of the difference between Q3 and Q1, so it's basically 30 by 2 is equal to 15. The reason why we use things like interquartile range is that it is a very good way to eliminate the outliers. So you could have a situation where, let's say, observations are 0, 300, 301, uh, 305, 310, 1000. Okay, not necessarily 6 observations, but let's say we have a large number of observations that fall into a nice comfortable range. A couple of very low outliers, couple of very high outliers. Uh, uh, these will not be reflected in your IQR basically. That is the whole point of it. Now you can replace the 0 with a minus 10,000. You can replace the 1,000 with a 1 million. It really doesn't change the IQR at all. That is the idea. Getting rid of outliers which are not representative of the set of observations as a whole. That's the point. So that's range, quartile, IQR, QD. That's it. Now another thing we need to look at is what would happen if we don't have a very comfortable value of n that gives me integers for each of these expressions. I took this example because it is easy. 11 observations means that 11 plus 1 is a multiple of 4, and everything here, the observation number to count is always an integer. What happens if it's not the case? We have to look at another example like that to understand how to calculate the quartiles. Let's do that next.